Bharata.
Hello and good evening. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav today, a 75-week nationwide mega festival which will lead up to the 75th Independence Day celebrations next year. And a wide range of events were also held nationwide to mark the occasion when 91 years ago Mahatma Gandhi had led the Dandi Salt March to defy India's British rulers. We'll get you all the updates on Newsnight tonight on that event. I'm Gautam Roy. There'll be much more, and we'll also be talking to our guests about the first ever Quad Summit meet, where the grouping was described by the PM as a force for global good, with its agenda today focusing on vaccines, climate change and emerging technologies. But first, our headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi takes part in the first ever Quad Summit meet. Japanese and Australian Prime Ministers Yoshihide Suga and Scott Morrison, along with US President Joe Biden, also join in. Leaders lay stress on open, secure and prosperous Indo-Pacific. The PM terms Quad as a force for global good, with today's agenda focusing on vaccines, climate change and emerging technologies. Biden announces vaccine initiative. Events related to the celebration of India's 75 years of independence begin with the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Prime Minister Modi flags off a symbolic reenactment of the Dandi Salt March from Ahmedabad Sabarmati Ashram. Also launches different cultural and digital initiatives related to the festivities. The PM terms the events of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav as bringing the glory of India's history alive for future generations. Says it will also showcase the country's progress. Urges youth to take inspiration from the independence struggle to move forward on the path to self-reliant India, with special focus on the 5 pillars. The PM also recalls the contributions of India's freedom fighters, says efforts have been made to conserve the historic glory of unsung heroes over the last 6 years. Lays stress on taking the life stories of those who sacrificed everything for the nation's freedom to common citizens. Events related to the Amrit Mahotsav held nationwide. Governors and chief ministers of different states take part in the festivities with full enthusiasm. Celebrations ranged from cultural events to heritage walks. Luminaries and unsung heroes of the country's freedom struggle remembered and honoured. The electoral battle intensifies in West Bengal. Delegations of TMC and BJP meet the Election Commission. TMC demands inquiry into the alleged attack on Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee. BJP demands release of unedited footage of the incident. Shubhendu files nomination from Nandigram, launches a frontal attack against Mamata Banerjee. Election activities also gather momentum in other states as well. DMK releases its list of candidates in Tamil Nadu. Deputy Chief Minister O. Paneerselvam files nomination. Congress releases list of 30 star campaigners for West Bengal. And Team India make 124 runs for the loss of 7 wickets in their quota of 20 overs in the first T20 international against England after losing the toss and being put into bat first. Shreyas Iyer shines with 67 runs. Well, first up, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, along with Prime Minister of Australia Scott Morrison and Prime Minister of Japan Yoshihide Suga and US President Joseph R. Biden, participated in the historic first ever Leader Summit of the Quadrilateral Framework virtually. In his opening remarks, Prime Minister Modi emphasized Quad as a force for global good and said the agenda for the summit meet covers vaccines, climate change and emerging technologies.
We are united by our democratic values and our commitment to a free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific. Our agenda today, covering areas like vaccines, climate change and emerging technologies make the Quad a force for global good.
The PM also underlined India's ancient philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which regards the world as a one family. He stressed that Quad will remain an important pillar of the stability in the region.
I see this positive vision as an extension of India's ancient philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which regards the world as one family. We will work together closer than ever before for advancing our shared values and promoting a secure, stable and prosperous Indo-Pacific. Today's summit meeting shows that Quad has come of age. It will now remain an important pillar of stability in the region.
And US President Joseph Biden said that it's going to be a vital arena for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific. He also said that an ambitious joint partnership is going to be launched to boost vaccine manufacturing for global benefit.
Free and open Indo-Pacific is essential to each of our futures, our countries. The United States is committed to working with you, our partners, and all our allies in the region to achieve stability. And this is a group of particularly important because it's dedicated to the practical solutions and concrete results. And my counterparts, if you'll forgive me, I'd like to give one example of why it matters. There are many examples. We all have to focus on generating domestic demand and driving sustainable global growth. And we're launching an ambitious new joint partnership that is going to boost vaccine manufacturing and for the global benefit and strengthen vaccinations to benefit the entire Indo-Pacific. The Quad is going to be a vital arena for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific.
So lots of words used that really say that Quad is here to stay and is going to make rapid progress from here on. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison said that this meeting of Quad leaders will be a new dawn in the Indo-Pacific. He added that much can be achieved through partnership of strategic trust, of common hope and shared values.
Namaste. Good morning, konnichiwa, and from Australia, g'day. As we begin a new day here in Australia, it's not yet dawn, but we join together as Quad leaders of nations to welcome what I think will be a new dawn in the Indo-Pacific through our gathering. History teaches us that when nations engage together in a partnership of strategic trust, of common hope and shared values, much can be achieved. When the world emerged from the Great War and our last global pandemic a century ago, it soon found a Great Depression and another global conflict that unleashed a poverty and a devastation that was unthinkable. As we emerge from this global pandemic and the global recession, let us together create a different future. It is the Indo-Pacific that will now shape the destiny of our world in the 21st century.
The Australian PM also said that Indo-Pacific will shape the destiny of the world in the 21st century.
As we emerge from this global pandemic and the global recession, let us together create a different future. It is the Indo-Pacific that will now shape the destiny of our world in the 21st century. As four leaders of great liberal democracies in the Indo-Pacific, let our partnership be the enabler of peace, stability and prosperity, and to do so inclusively with the many nations of our region, to share in their vision as expressed through ASEAN for an open, inclusive and resilient Indo-Pacific.
And Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga expressed his country's readiness to advance cooperation to realize a free and open Indo-Pacific and to make visible contribution for prosperity in the region, including overcoming the COVID-19 challenge.
With the four countries working together, I wish to firmly advance our cooperation to realize a free and open Indo-Pacific and to make visible and tangible contribution to the peace, stability and prosperity of the region, including overcoming COVID-19.
And we're just waiting for a briefing that will come in from the MEA about what really transpired as far as this meeting is concerned, the first ever summit meet between the Quad leaders. In the meantime, let's get to our In Focus tonight. And that's all about Quad, which is a force for global good as described by Prime Minister Modi. And to talk about it, we have Deepa Gopalan Vadva with us, former Indian ambassador to Japan, as well as Professor Harshvardhan Pant, distinguished fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. Very good evening to you both. If I could come to you first, Deepa Gopalan Vadva, the kind of focus that Prime Minister Modi mentioned, vaccines, climate change, and of course emerging technologies, that in itself really shows that the Quad is moving forward at a rapid pace now, just to ensure that the kind of challenges that we're faced with at this current juncture because of what the pandemic brought along are really answered to in a collective manner.
Well, yes, indeed. I think what is really significant is what Prime Minister Modi said when he said that the Quad has come of age. I think that's really a very significant statement that he made. And he also said that the Quad would be a force of global good. So you know what has happened really at this summit? It's absolutely historic. I think, as Prime Minister Morrison said, without a doubt. And the reason is that it is now probably no longer an informal ad hoc grouping. It has now taken form. We have hope of institutionalizing it. We have perhaps the possibility of regular physical summits, because there was some talk of there being a physical summit after this in the course of the year. And then there has been a clear agenda for the group. And what is really important is the focus that has been on a tangible outcome, something that you can prove to the world that we can do. And sort of, collective, a good, a humanitarian cause. So I think all of these are extremely significant. I do really believe that this is a historic moment.
Certainly. And the emphasis has always been on open, free and prosperous Indo-Pacific as well, Harshvardhan Pant. But now this focus that has been given, that clearly indicates in what direction do we want to move this cooperation forward. And it's not about, as it has always been said, that it's specific to a single agenda only, and that is about countering China.
No, I think, what we are witnessing, as the ambassador was saying, something historic. This is the building, we are witnessing the building or formalization of a structure that was at the platform level. We used to say, Quad is a platform. Now we are moving in a direction where Quad is possibly being institutionalized. And I think the agenda is, of course, much more expansive than simply saying, look, there is a threat perception that joins these countries together. Of course, there is. But there is more to it, whether you look at this sort of agenda that is being talked about, from vaccines to maritime security to rare earth metals, supply chain resilience. All of these issues in and of themselves tell you a different story about a platform that at one point was seemingly taking hesitant steps towards something meaningful. Today is trying to grapple with some of the more contemporary and some of the more relevant challenges of our times. And I think that's the real story here, that we are no longer talking simply of a platform that had its problems, that was, there was countries that had questions about a third country, and therefore they were banding together. This is a platform that is evolving much more rapidly than many anticipated, and is evolving in a direction where some of the challenges, it is trying to grapple with some of those challenges in real time. And I think if they can do that successfully, the leaders can really draw out a roadmap, which seemingly it seems that they are inclined to do, given statements. I think make a substantive difference to the wider lexicography of Indo-Pacific, as well as the operationalization of some of the issues that we are talking about.
Certainly. And in fact, we'll have to come back to you both, because right now we're getting a briefing in from the Ministry of External Affairs. I believe the Foreign Secretary is addressing.
Which was held earlier this evening. I would like to first warmly welcome Foreign Secretary here. He is joined by Joint Secretary AMS, Ms. Vani Rao. May I now invite Foreign Secretary for his opening remarks, following which we will take your questions. Over to you, sir.
Namaste and good evening, and thank you for your patience. We have just concluded the first ever leaders level meeting of the Quad countries, with Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi joining Prime Minister Scott Morrison of Australia and Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga of Japan and President Joe Biden of the United States in a virtual summit. The historic nature of today's event will be obvious to you. That the four countries have upgraded the Quad conversation to the apex level is by itself the most significant outcome. It highlights the importance of international cooperation to address global challenges. The summit today was hosted by the United States and it is President Biden's first plurilateral engagement. As you know, since President Biden took office, our Prime Minister has had 2 conversations with him. Today's summit provided opportunity for a detailed exchange with President Biden and the other Quad leaders. At the meeting, the 4 countries emphasized their commitment to the principles that unite us and underpin all our national experiences, our shared belief in democracy, pluralism and market-based economic principles. We are all committed to a free and open, inclusive and rules-based, secure and prosperous Indo-Pacific region. This is a region that is home to all 4 of our countries and to many partner countries, including of course our friends from the ASEAN. As you are aware, the approach for our engagement with the region was enunciated by the Prime Minister in his landmark speech at the Shangri-La Dialogue in 2018 in Singapore. And the vision of Sagar, or security of, and growth for all in the region, was also enunciated by the Prime Minister. In his remarks at the summit today, Prime Minister Modi emphasized that the Quad is a partnership for global good. Today's summit saw the Quad leaders adopt a positive agenda and vision, focusing on contemporary issues such as vaccines, climate change and emerging technologies. Prime Minister said at the summit today that he saw this positive vision as an extension of our ancient philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which, as you know, regards the world as one family. At the summit, the leaders sought to strengthen the moorings for peace, stability and well-being among the people of the Indo-Pacific and in the global community. Their discussions also extended to post-pandemic recovery, resilient supply chains and maritime security. And as we, I think, have the Q&A, I'll also try and share with you some of the different ideas that might have come up during the course of the discussions. Now, many of the objectives that were enunciated at the Quad summit are reflected in the concrete takeaways of today's meeting, of which the Quad vaccine initiative is perhaps the most pressing and valuable. The 4 countries have agreed to a plan to pool their financial resources, manufacturing capabilities and capacities, and logistical strengths so as to ramp up the manufacture and distribution of the COVID-19 vaccines in the Indo-Pacific region. We believe this will speed up the process of post-pandemic recovery and enable families and businesses to put the COVID-19 crisis behind them and move towards normalization. In other words, this is a special initiative which is designed proactively to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 among countries in the Indo-Pacific. And I think the 4 countries are really leveraging their respective strengths. But again, more on that as we go into the question-answer session. India, of course, we welcome this initiative as it recognizes our own manufacturing capacities and capabilities. We look forward to wholeheartedly and unstintingly participating in this endeavor. This is a vaccine supply chain which is built by trust and being built to convey trust. It is an example of the human-centric international cooperation and globalization that the Prime Minister has referred to on more than one occasion. It is also a validation of our reputation as a reliable manufacturer of high-quality vaccines and pharmaceutical products during this COVID crisis that has been much in evidence. I must say that during the discussions there was a wholesome appreciation by the other Quad leaders on India's role in providing vaccines to 70 countries all over the world under the Vaccine Maitri initiative. And it's important for me to emphasize here that we have, what we are creating under the Quad Vaccine Initiative are additional capacities that are being created and will not, I repeat, will not in any manner affect our domestic vaccine production and rollout. In a sense, the Quad initiative builds on the Vaccine Maitri experience, as I mentioned, which has been very successful. And it is evidence that Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat are reliable contributors to global supply chains and augment global availability of critical commodities and products. At the meeting, the leaders agreed to the creation of 3 working groups, and these are a vaccine expert working group to implement our path-breaking commitment to safe and effective vaccine distribution, a critical and emerging technology working group to facilitate cooperation on international standards and innovative technologies of the future, and a climate working group to strengthen climate actions globally on mitigation, adaptation, resilience, technology, capacity building, and climate finance. India looks forward to being a part of all of these working groups. I have already spoken on vaccines, frontier technologies and their safe and judicious use for the security and prosperity of all, and advancing the effort against climate change in every possible manner are articles of faith for India. We welcome the opportunity to cooperate even more closely with our Quad partners in these areas that have been identified. The 4 leaders did agree. This is a virtual summit. This is the first summit of its kind, and it had to be held virtually because of the circumstances. But the 4 leaders did talk about an in-person meeting. There was agreement that there would be a Quad in-person meeting sometime later this year. It could be in the margins of a major summit where all 4 leaders are present. It could also be in the United States or one of our countries concerned. And of course, the Quad will continue to meet at the foreign minister and official levels, and we will be participating in all of these meetings. So what I've done is I've tried to offer you a snapshot of the extent of the discussions and purposefulness of the discussions today among our leaders. The meeting has set a benchmark for the Quad's future efforts in the interests of the Indo-Pacific community and global society on the whole. There will be some documentation that will be released now following the summit. This includes a joint statement, which is the first time that the Quad is issuing such a statement jointly. There is also a fact sheet regarding the 3 working groups that have been set up. I'm now happy to take any questions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for those remarks. Foreign Secretary will take only a few questions. What I'll do is I'll start with questions that I've received from those who've joined us online. There's a question from Pushkar from the New Indian Express. Who will finance the vaccine initiative? Will India be helming the affairs of the initiative? And I also have a similar question from Dipanjan from Economic Times. What are prospects of vaccine supply chain initiative transforming into supply chain initiative in other sectors between Quad members?
Well, I think these are very good and valid questions. When we talk about the Quad vaccine initiative, what the leaders have tried to do is to leverage our respective strengths and then collectively work on these strengths towards an initiative that will be there for the betterment of the people of the Indo-Pacific region. Now, what are these strengths that we are leveraging? One is the United States' technological prowess in manufacturing quality vaccines. US vaccines will be manufactured in India. India's manufacturing capabilities and capacity has been recognized in this regard. I did mention to you that each of the other 3 Quad leaders made it a point to talk about the success of India's Vaccine Maitri program, our endeavor to supply vaccines all over the world despite our own domestic requirements. I think this has been seen as an important initiative to address the COVID-19 and put behind us this pandemic. But our essentially manufacturing capacity is something that is going to be leveraged to make US vaccines, and this additional capacity that we will create in this vaccine initiative that the Quad is undertaking will be financed both by the United States, the Development Finance Corporation of the US, and Japan's JICA and their JBIC, Japan Bank for International Cooperation. So you will have financing from the US and Japan. and you will have Australia contributing towards last mile and logistical delivery issues. In other words, Australia will also finance countries that are going to receive these vaccines. They will finance cold chains, they will finance training, they will finance the ability of these countries to absorb effectively and use these vaccines for their immunization programs. And we are talking really about Southeast Asia, the Pacific Island states, Indian Ocean countries, and the Indo-Pacific in general. So this is, as I said, a very unique initiative. This is, in today's context, one of the most important initiatives you could think about, because keep in mind that Quad will work closely with COVAX, with WHO, with Gavi, with CEPA, with all of the organizations, the G7, that is involved with vaccine production, distribution and assistance offered on a humanitarian basis to countries all over the world. There will be close coordination with all of these organizations. But what's important is that we are talking about huge investments in creating additional vaccine capacities in India for export to countries in the Indo-Pacific region for their betterment. And in doing so, of course, the financing would be available in the numbers that we need. We are talking about producing about 1 billion doses of vaccine by the end of 2022. It's an ambitious target. If you look at the fact that vaccines all over the world are limited to a few 100 million. 1 billion doses is a very large number, but we are talking about really immunizing people in an entire region, if not the entire world. And this is something that is both an ambitious and a much needed initiative that the Quad is undertaking. There is also talk among the leaders of looking at future pandemics. This is not going to be the last pandemic. This is something that was discussed, that was recognized, and that in case other pandemics come, maybe Quad should invest also in creating capacities that will enable us to deal with them. Because after all, if you invest in developing additional capacities that can produce 1 billion vaccines, it really means that you are prepared for the next pandemic, that you're looking at other areas which you can help and contribute in. You're creating health capacities which have never been there before.
Thank you, sir. The next question which I'll read out has come from Devi Rupa from The Wire. Compared to previous times when China has compared the Quad to an Asia-Pacific NATO, the response from Chinese Foreign Ministry has not used those kinds of robust descriptions and has been more cautious in the run-up to the Quad summit. How do you see the official Chinese remarks on the Quad summit?
Well, you see, if you look at what the Quad really stands for, it is looking to create conditions for a free, open, inclusive, prosperous, secure Indo-Pacific region. In other words, it is looking at an area in which we can identify with given our shared values. And what are the Quad, what are the main principles that guide us? It is a value for democracy. It is respect for the rule of law. It is trying to ensure that navigation, there could be free international navigation in international waters and in the sky. We are looking at peaceful settlement of disputes, and of course, sovereignty and territorial integrity of states, which is an important principle anyway. And
so there you heard Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla talking about what the first ever summit meet of Quad, the tangibles, he's mentioned them. There will be a joint statement which is quite significant in terms of further extending the landmark sense of this meeting, the first apex level meeting, as he mentioned, of Quad leaders, and there will be 3 working groups as well, one on vaccines, one on climate change, and the other one on emerging technologies. And he was elaborating, and he did elaborate quite a bit on how this vaccine initiative is perhaps the most significant one, considering the kind of juncture that we are at in the world right now, the kind of challenge that is being posed by the pandemic, and that additional capacities will be built up in India. He was saying we'll take it up to 1 billion vaccine doses a year, and that is going to be massive. And these will be put to use if, and one doesn't really know whether that will happen or not, but there is always a possibility there might be future pandemics as well. We still have Deepa Gopalan Vadva and Harshvardhan Pant with us. What did you make of those words that and the details that the Foreign Secretary shared? It clearly indicated that this is a partnership a framework that has now put together an agenda that extends into decades and decades, and always standing for those shared values and the ideas that we have of a free, open and prosperous Indo-Pacific, where every country has an equal opportunity to choose its own direction and take it to its own future. Can you hear me, Deepa Gopalan Badwa?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I didn't know who it was addressed to. So yes,
to you.
I could tell. Well, what's most significant is the first thing that he said, that this is an upgraded Quad conversation. I think that was something very interesting. He did talk about principles, which we did know, which in fact bind the group together. But the other thing I think of significance that he said was that we were discussing contemporary issues. And while he talked about all the other issues, the vaccines and climate change and so on, emerging technologies, they have also very clearly talked about the importance of maritime security.
Yes.
So I think that, they have very much looked at the strategic content of this entire grouping also, or the strategic agenda of this grouping. And of course, as you said, very importantly, that they have for the first time come out with a joint statement. You do know that the meetings before this, each country had its own readout. And I think this caused some amount of comment. But here, we not only have a joint statement, but we also have a fact sheet. And we have working groups. So this is really the institutionalizing of the Quad. And I think the Quad is here to stay. I must say one thing is that, as one was preparing for this and reading about it, one of the thoughts that came to me was, in the past, one was always worried about who was the weak link in the Quad. I think now we realize that even as we have our own engagement with China,
yes,
that is not going to threaten the Quad. That is not going to threaten this grouping, that both can happen simultaneously. And I think that is also a very big takeaway from this meeting that we've had and the summit that we've had.
Certainly. And what do you make of what was said, Harsh? Because clearly there is, of course, the three working groups, and we will know more as to what the leaders have had to say and what the Quad together feels about the entire situation that the world faces at this moment. And this will be covering a very diverse range, I believe.
The intent behind this grouping, which was always about a particular action, seems to have morphed something more expansive, seems to now linked within that larger strategic context, linked to specific aspects of cooperation, practical aspects of cooperation, which is very welcome, because at the end of the day, group platform and institution is only as effective as its outcomes. So I think what we are now looking at is a gradual formalization. All clear intent on the part of top leaders from these countries that this platform needs to evolve into something more substantial. That will come, because at the end of the day, investment in this grouping, as well as in the kind of that they are now prioritizing. Rare earth metals,
yes,
or emerging technologies, maritime security. I mean, these are issues on which you can develop a larger cohort of countries around the nucleus of Quad and contribute to global governance, not simply targeted but all about larger issues of global governance where a vacuum is being felt. And when you have four major powers contributing to global governance, it generates greater confidence in their ability to deliver. And I think the message from this summit is absolutely clear, that not only Quad is here to stay, but also Quad is here. Quad will be institutionalized, and Quad is willing to deliver commitments that it is espousing.
Certainly, and that institutionalization seems to have started already with this working groups and the joint statement. And there was also talk about discussions around considering Europe as potential partners, and things have been floated around about other partners in Asia as well. And Quad has always talked about the centrality of ASEAN as well. So things are going great at this point. We'll have to see how it further evolves. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Deepa Gopalan Badwa, as well as Harshvardhan Pant. Okay, Let's move on now that the nation is set to celebrate the completion of 75 years of independence on the 15th of August next year. Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, a grand nationwide celebration over 75 weeks, was launched today by Prime Minister Narendra Modi at Sabarmati Ashram in Gujarat. The PM said the Mahotsav, or a mega festival, should reflect the aspirational and self-reliant streak of all Indians and showcase how well has India progressed from independence till now.
आजादी ने कहा, मैं मंजिल नहीं, राह हूं, अभी तो मैं शुरुआत हूं।
मृत्यो मुक्षीय मामृता।
आधुनिक भारत के शिल्पियों ने दिशा दिखाई।
हम दुख, कष्ट, क्लेश और विनाश से निकलकर अमृत की तरफ बढ़ें, अमरता की ओर बढ़ें। आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव यानी आजादी की ऊर्जा का अमृत। आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव यानी स्वाधीनता सेनानियों से प्रेरणाओं का अमृत। आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव यानी नए विचारों का अमृत, नए संकल्पों का अमृत। आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव यानी आत्मनिर्भरता का अमृत। ये महोत्सव राष्ट्र के जागरण का महोत्सव है।
From independence to self-reliant India, the journey has only just begun. 12th March 1930, Mahatma Gandhi led the Dandi March, marking the beginning of Salt Satyagraha. 12th March to 15th of August, a span of 75 weeks, will see Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav play out. Prime Minister launched a website, india75.nic.in, a one-stop destination for information. Prime Minister said the event will connect the youth to our glorious history and inspire them to strive towards a glorious future for the nation.
ये महोत्सव राष्ट्र के जागरण का महोत्सव है। ये महोत्सव सुराज्य के सपने को पूरा करने का महोत्सव है। ये महोत्सव वैश्विक शांति का विकास का महोत्सव है।
Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav aims at connecting people with freedom struggle and instill a sense of sacrifice and devotion towards the nation. Prime Minister stressed that new India of 21st century is fueled by the essence of self-reliance and is going to drive development journey of the whole world.
आज भारत के पास वैक्सीन का सामर्थ्य है, तो वसुधैव कुटुंबकम के भाव से हम सबके दुख दूर करने में काम आ रहे हैं। यही भारत का शाश्वत दर्शन है। यही आत्मनिर्भर भारत का भी तत्व ज्ञान है। यही नए भारत के सूर्योदय की पहली छटा है। यही हमारे भव्य भविष्य की पहली आभा है।
Going vocal for local is a wonderful tribute to Bapu and our great freedom fighters. To take this thought to the people, a charkha is being installed at Sabarmati Ashram. The charkha will rotate full circle with each tweet related to Atmanirbharta. In another boost to self-reliance, an Atmanirbhar incubator to mentor and support local handicrafts has been launched at Sabarmati Ashram. This will benefit some 40,000 families.
मोदी जी पुंदुरी के काम पर ध्यान दे रहे हैं, इसको आगे बढ़ाएंगे सोच के हम सब खुश हैं।
With the launch of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, the aim is to take achievements and glory of India to the world. In the words of Prime Minister,
हमें गर्व है हमारी लोकतांत्रिक परंपराओं पर। लोकतंत्र की जननी भारत आज भी लोकतंत्र को मजबूती देते हुए आगे बढ़ रहा है। आज भारत अभाव के अंधकार से बाहर निकलकर 130 करोड़ से अधिक आकांक्षाओं की पूर्ति के लिए आगे बढ़ रहा है।
With the key symbols of the charkha and dandi and pillars of ideas, achievement, action and resolution, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has connected the past with the present and given us a clear direction for the future. With cameraman Mohit Joshi, this is Mark Lin, DD News from Abhay Ghat in Ahmedabad.
And on the momentous occasion, the PM also flagged off a symbolic march to Dandi. On this day in 1930, Mahatma Gandhi had led the Dandi or Salt March to defy the country's colonial rulers in a non-violent civil disobedience move. The PM also recalled the glorious phase of India's independence struggle, which ousted the British from the country.
नमक भारत की आत्मनिर्भरता का एक प्रतीक था। अंग्रेजों ने भारत के मूल्यों के साथ-साथ इस आत्मनिर्भरता पर भी चोट की। गांधी जी ने देश के उस पुराने दर्द को समझा, जन जन से जुड़ी उस नब्ज को पकड़ा और देखते ही देखते ये आंदोलन हर एक भारतीय का आंदोलन बन गया, हर एक भारतीय का संकल्प बन गया।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi reliving the glory of the Dandi March, a fistful of salt that won India its freedom, that united the nation to strive for independence. The Prime Minister flagged off a symbolic Padayatra from Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi. He said that the Salt March was an amalgamation of not just India's roots, but also of its diversity.
हमारे यहाँ नमक को कभी उसकी कीमत से नहीं आंका गया। हमारे यहाँ नमक का मतलब है ईमानदारी, हमारे यहाँ नमक का मतलब है विश्वास, हमारे यहाँ नमक का मतलब है वफादारी। नमक हमारे यहाँ श्रम और समानता का प्रतीक है। उस दौर में नमक भारत की आत्मनिर्भरता का एक प्रतीक था।
No one can forget India's first war of independence in 1857. Mahatma Gandhi's return to India that ignited the spirit of Satyagrah, Lokmanya Tilak's call for Purna Swaraj, setting up the Azad Hind Fauj by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, and his call of Dilli Chalo are indelible in the collective memory of India.
अंग्रेजों की फौज के सामने निर्भीक गर्जना करने वाली रानी लक्ष्मीबाई हो, कित्तूर की रानी चेन्नम्मा हो, रानी गाइडिनल्यू हो, चंद्रशेखर आजाद, रामप्रसाद बिस्मिल, भगत सिंह, ये सभी महान व्यक्तित्व आजादी के आंदोलन के पथदर्शक रहे। तमिलनाडु के 32 वर्षीय नौजवान कोडिकात कुमरन मरते हुए भी देश के झंडे को जमीन में नहीं गिरने दिया। झारखंड में भगवान बिरसा मुंडा, ओडिशा के चक्रा बिसोई ने लड़ाई छेड़ी तो लक्ष्मण नायक ने गांधीवादी तरीकों से चेतना फैलाई।
The country has been making a conscious effort for the last 6 years to preserve this history in every state and in every region. The Prime Minister urged the youth and scholars to take responsibility of documenting and popularizing the history of our freedom fighters.
हर नागरिक का संकल्प होगा, हर संस्था का संकल्प होगा, हर संगठन का संकल्प होगा देश को आगे ले जाने का, आजादी के दीवानों को श्रद्धांजलि देने का। भारत माता की वंदे।
With bureau inputs, Mark Lynn's report, DD India.
वंदे।
Now, the Charkha has been associated with freedom struggle and it has inspired the nation to become Atmanirbhar. A Charkha has been installed at the Sabarmati Ashram as well. The Charkha rotates full circle with each tweet related to Atmanirbharta. The idea behind is to connect the younger generation with the thought process of previous generation. Our correspondent Mark Lynn talked to the persons associated with the campaign.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has once again put the Charkha at the center of a revolution for India's change, a new India. With each tweet on Atmanirbhar Bharat and Vocal for Local, the Prime Minister has put this Charkha on the world map in a sense because it will revolve on each tweet.
Towards a grand cause that is Make in India, or which is spreading by, we are like spreading this cause by a tweet campaign Vocal for Local. So this campaign is like encourage people to use local products in your country market, local market in your states.
Gandhi ji thought that this is the symbol of our independence. We can get independence through Charkha also, because as Modi ji told, Atmanirbhar Bharat. As Gandhi ji also thought this thing, that independence, if each and every person of our country and villages should have employment. So Gandhi ji told that if we want independence or self-dependent, so we should run charkha.
गांधी जी का मेन मोटो था डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन, प्रोडक्शन बाय मासेस, अगेन द मास प्रोडक्शन। उन्होंने कहा कि मास प्रोडक्शन होता है, एक बंदा कितना सारा कमाता है, पर ज्यादा हाथों को काम कैसे मिले, ये उनकी सोच थी। चरखा उसमें एकदम उनको सही लगा कि चरखा तो हमें चलाना ही है हर हाल में।
And the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav celebrations were also launched nationwide from all corners of the country. A whole host of events were held, ranging from cultural performances to heritage walks involving governors, lieutenant governors, chief ministers and other leaders. Take a look.
The celebrations of the Amrit Mahotsav to mark the 75 years of independence began across the country on Friday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the Amrit Mahotsav, the government initiative to mark the 75 years of India's independence from Gujarat. The entire country immersed into the celebration mode, be it the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Shivraj Singh Chauhan, the Chief Minister of Rajasthan, Ashok Gehlot, all of them kicked off the Mahotsav in their respective states.
हम लोगों ने तय किया जितनी भी आजादी के आंदोलन की प्रमुख तिथियां हैं, अगले एक वर्ष के दौरान देश की आजादी के ज्ञात और अज्ञात उन सभी शहीदों को स्मरण करने के लिए हम लोग कार्यक्रम आयोजित करेंगे। वहां पर पुलिस धुन से अपने शहीदों को सम्मान देंगे और वहां पर सांस्कृतिक और ऐतिहासिक प्रपेक्ष से जुड़े हुए सभी कार्यक्रम आयोजित होंगे।
हम संकल्प लें कि जिन आदर्शों के लिए अपने आप को न्यौछावर कर दिया शहीदों ने, क्रांतिकारियों ने, मध्य प्रदेश में जितने भी क्रांतिकारियों के जन्म स्थान और कर्म स्थान है, उन सब का हम विकास कर रहे हैं। हर जगह उनकी स्मृति में अलग अलग स्मारक बनाए जा रहे हैं, कई बन गए और जरूरत पड़ेगी तो और बनाएंगे।
Amrit Mahotsav programs were also organized in the Union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Lakshadweep. Cycle rallies and exhibitions were flagged off in Lakshadweep, while a large number of people attended the event in Baramulla, Jammu and Kashmir. Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha participated in the program organized in Samba.
एक ऐसा पर्व होना चाहिए जिसमें स्वतंत्रता संग्राम की भावना भी हो, उसका त्याग भी हो और इन दोनों का साक्षात अनुभव हो सके, जिसमें देश के शहीदों को श्रद्धांजलि भी हो और उनके सपनों के भारत बनाने का संकल्प भी हो, जिसमें सनातन भारत के गौरव की झलक भी हो और जिसमें आधुनिक भारत की चमक भी हो।
A heritage walk was also organized by the Archaeological Survey of India at the iconic monuments Aga Khan Palace in Pune, the Ministry of Culture, Nehru Yuva Kendra Sangathan and National Service Scheme. Ministry of Sports and Pune District Collector also participated under the Amrit Mahotsav program of Azadi. People across the northeastern state of Assam and Manipur also took part in a number of programs. A program was organized in Guwahati during which NCC volunteers spread awareness. In Manipur, Freedom Rally was also organized from Palil Bridge via Kotlinfe to Tenopal district.
The government is planning various events at state level and at district levels. Similarly, district administration Technopal is also taking up one rally event. Along with this, various other also events are being planned in the district. Today at Palel, which is a historic place.
A cycle rally was also organized in Amritsar to commemorate the event. A cultural program was also organized on this occasion. The youth participated enthusiastically in this rally. At the same time, Governor Banwari Lal Purohit took part in the program held in Chennai of Tamil Nadu. Bureau Report, DD India.
And Prime Minister Modi addressed the Global Ayurveda Festival as well today. The festival aims to popularize Ayurveda and traditional forms of medicine. Highlighting the benefits of Ayurveda, the PM said Ayurveda has emerged as holistic human science. He added that Ayurveda, along with traditional forms of medicines, will be a driving force to heal people globally.
Ayurveda takes care of many aspects. It ensures good health and long life. Ayurveda could rightly be described as a holistic human science. The current situation presents a right time for Ayurveda and traditional medicines to become even more popular globally. There is growing interest towards them. The world is seeing how modern and traditional medicines both are important to further wellness.
And the PM also urged academicians and startup enterprises to further deepen their research in the field of Ayurveda and traditional medicines. He stressed that India is a one-stop destination for wellness tourism, which preserves health by keeping the mind, body and spirit in balance.
What India specially offers you is wellness tourism. At the core of wellness tourism is the principle of treat illness, further wellness. When I talk about wellness tourism, its strongest pillar is Ayurveda and traditional medicine. If your life's deadlines and timelines are stressing you out, it is time to tap into the timeless culture of India. Whenever you want to treat your body or a retreat for your mind, come to India.
Okay, moving on now, the election juggernaut is hurtling down the streets and lanes of Nandigram as the key constituency prepares to be a witness to the most anticipated battle in West Bengal. Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has already filed her nomination papers, and on Friday it was her protege turned bête noire, that's arch rival Shubhendu Adhikari, who filed his nomination papers as well. The initial tempo clearly reveals that this election will be one of the most unforgettable ones for voters of Nandigram. Let's also get you all the latest related updates from election-bound states and union territory.
BJP's Shubhendu Adhikari filed his nomination papers from Nandigram for the West Bengal Assembly elections. The die was cast few days back for a political blockbuster in the seat when Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee decided to test her mettle here. Shubhendu started his day by offering prayers in temples and meeting the local voters. He launched a broadside against Mamata Banerjee on the issue of development of Nandigram.
একটা প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড কোম্পানিতে পরিণত হয়েছে এবং এর রাজনৈতিক বিশ্বাসযোগ্যতা পশ্চিমবঙ্গে শেষ হয়ে গেছে এবং এই একটি দলে তার নেত্রী এবং তার যে ভাইপো এর বাইরে বাকি কারোরই সম্মান নেই, মর্যাদা নেই, অধিকার নেই, কথা বলার জায়গা নেই, সিদ্ধান্তে নীতিতে অংশগ্রহণ করার সুযোগ নেই।
Shubhendu also held a roadshow in Haldia where he was joined by Union Ministers Dharmendra Pradhan and Smriti Irani. Meanwhile, a delegation of TMC leaders met the Election Commission and demanded a probe in the attack on the Chief Minister. On the other hand, in New Delhi, a BJP delegation met the EC officials and demanded that the video of alleged attack on Mamata Banerjee be made public.
हम यही पॉइंट बोला, ममता बनर्जी पर जो हमला हुआ और जिससे उनका चोट लगा, जिस चोट के लिए वो अभी अस्पताल में है, उस पर हम सीईसी को ये बोला इसके साथ कोई घटना का लिंक है।
पूरे मामले का जो वीडियो है, जितना वीडियो मीडिया के माध्यम से हमें उपलब्ध हुआ है, हमने चुनाव आयोग को दिया है, लेकिन उसके आगे का जो वीडियो है वो पूरा वीडियो पब्लिक में आना चाहिए, पब्लिक डोमेन में आना चाहिए, ताकि लोग सच जान सके। और बंगाल में हम फिर चुनाव आयोग से ये आग्रह करना चाहते हैं कि टीएमसी के द्वारा म्यूनिसिपैलिटी को, कॉरपोरेशन को इन्फ्लुएंस करने के लिए जो उनके एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर बनाए गए हैं उनको रिमूव किया जाए, सारे मामले की निष्पक्ष जांच कराई जाए और बंगाल में फ्री और फेयर चुनाव हो, इसके पूरा प्रबंध चुनाव आयोग को करना चाहिए।
Congress has released its list of star campaigners, including the names of party president Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, among others. Election fever is catching up in Tamil Nadu as well. Deputy Chief Minister O. Pannirselvam filed his nomination on Friday. The DMK has released a list of 173 candidates for the elections. Party President M.K. Stalin will fight from his traditional seat Kolattur. The DMK is contesting from 186 seats out of 234 in the state.
I really thank the DMK Supremo, DMK leader, Mr. Talabadiyar M.K. Stalin, to select me as a candidate for 1,000 lives. People who really work for the downtrodden should be given political empowerment. That is the main theme for DMK in this election.
Actor turned politician Kamal Hassan will fight the elections from Coimbatore South. His party MNM is fighting on 154 seats in the state. Kerala and Assam are also preparing for the ensuing elections. Bureau Report, DD India.
As far as the COVID situation in the country is concerned, Maharashtra, Kerala, Punjab, Karnataka, Gujarat and Tamil Nadu continue to report an upsurge in daily new cases. They cumulatively account for 85.6% of the new cases reported in the last 24 hours. Maharashtra and Kerala account for 71.69% of India's active cases. Maharashtra reported the highest daily new cases at 14,317, that's 61.48% of daily new cases. It is followed by Kerala with 2,133, while Punjab reported 1,305 new cases. Now, the centre is closely monitoring the situation and actively engaging with states and union territories over the rising COVID-19 cases. Over 23,285 new cases have been registered in the last 24 hours. And the country's total active caseload has now reached 1,97,237 on Friday itself. The country's total active caseload is at 1,97,237 on Friday again. India's present active caseload stands at 1.74% of the total positive cases. India's recovery rate now stands at 96.85% as well. Now, some news in our national wrap segment from around the country as well.
Uttarakhand Chief Minister Tridive Singh Rawat expanded his Council of Ministers. Governor Baby Singh Rani Moria administered the oath of office to 11 ministers at Raj Bhavan. Banshidhar Bhagwat, MLA from Gadarpur, took the oath of office in Sanskrit. Supreme Court on Friday ruled that any persons employed with the central or the state government could not be appointed as election commissioner across the length and breadth of the country. The ruling aims at ensuring independence of the election commissions. The judgment came as the top court censured the Goa government for appointing its law secretary as the state election commission for conducting municipal council elections in the state. Power and New and Renewable Energy Minister R.K. Singh launched Energy Efficiency Enterprises Certification Program from brick manufacturing sector in order to kick-start a series of events from Ministry of Power under Azadi Ka Amrut Mahotsav. R.K. Singh appreciated the responses received from the bricks manufacturing enterprises for availing this certificate.
And that's all we have for the moment in this edition of Newsnight. But all the latest continues right here on DD India. Do stay tuned.